Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over two different dinosaur discoveries taking place earlier in the Mesozoic era, the time of the dinosaurs, and what's going on with snakes over in southern Europe and tigers in South Asia. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So let's travel back in time from Sci News. New armored dinosaur unearthed in Argentina. Let's see, considering ankylosaurs, nodosaurs are not common species of dinosaurs that are discovered over in southern South America in general. You could say the whole continent. They're much more common over in North America and different parts of Asia. Occasionally, they'll show up over in Europe. So, paleontologists in Argentina have unveiled a new genus and species of armored thyrophauran dinosaur or thyropharan dinosaur from the Cretaceous period. Whoa. Actually, looking at these 2, I was expecting this animal to be much earlier in time, like from the early Jurassic around 200 million years ago. But this is stating that it's the Cretaceous, so at least somewhere around 140 million years ago. That's astounding for a bipedal theropharean dinosaur, which sounds like it's unknown as to what family, like specific family of Thyropharian dinosaur this animal would have belonged to, considering the more renowned stegosaurs, the ankylosaurs, and nodosaurs are all descendants of the early Thyropharian species from the early Jurassic period. But this is like a lineage that just kept its basic morphology. They were very small, the ancestors of animals like Stegosaurus and Kylosaurus back in the early Jurassic of North America, South America, Asia, around 200 million years ago. They usually didn't reach much more than maybe 8 to 11 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere between 2.5 meters and a little over 3.2 meters. Thyrophora is a group of small to large armored ornithischian dinosaurs that lived from the early Jurassic until the end of the Cretaceous period. These dinosaurs are characterized by the presence of body armor lined up in longitudinal rows along the body. Yeah, it is quite interesting. They both, I guess you could say, had a more bipedal and chylosaur like appearance or overall morphology compared to their descendants. Or at least it's almost like a bipedal nodosaur earlier in their evolution. I'd say the stegosaurs are probably the most unique out of the eutherians, but it would also depend on what species of ankylosaur and nodosaur that you're looking at. They're both very different lineages. Most thyrophorans were herbivorous and had relatively small brains for their body size. There are certain earlier species of the smaller thyrophorans that seems to be they might have been omnivorous. So also feeding on different species of fungi and um, meat as well, but likely maybe feeding on just certain different species of amphibians or different species of small reptiles, but not likely feeding on any larger species of dinosaurs as large as them, or maybe even a fraction of their size. Hatchlings might be possible depending on the species, maybe going after pterosaurs. Thyrophora is a clade of ornithischian dinosaurs characterized by the presence of dermal bone armor on their backs, said lead author Dr. Facundo Reguetai, a paleontologist in the Fundación de Historia Natural Felix de Azara at Universidad Maimonides and Conicet and his colleagues. Although most thyrophorans are grouped with Uropoda and Chalosauridae, the armored dinosaurs, and Stegosauridae, the plated dinosaurs, their more basal relatives show unresolved phylogenetic placements. Yeah, talking about these small thyrophorans. Um, let's though bring up a larger species of dinosaur that used to exist back in the, I guess, mid Jurassic, Megalosaurus. So Megalosaurus. Okay, there we go. So this was the first confirmed species of dinosaur to be discovered by specifically William Buckland. It does seem to be that there were earlier specimens back in the 1670s that were discovered, but back in 1824 over in England,
Is that guy any good?
no, he's got a lot of issues. Looks like a mix of carcharodontosaurs, certain smaller tyrannosaurs, and megalosaurs at play when it comes to the mixed morphology of this. He still has a lot of problems. This seems to represent almost like a Monolophosaurus to an extent, which is from much earlier in the Jurassic. Megalosaurus lived in England, or at least William Buckland discovered it in mid Jurassic sediments, somewhere around 170 million years ago. And this was back when England and much of Europe was a series of islands. Oh, yeah, this is a much better depiction of a megalosaurus. It's probably feeding on a cetiosaurus, possibly. Those cetiosaurus might have existed a bit later into the Jurassic. There were other different species of sauropods within the region that megalosaurus likely hunted. Cetiosaurus, however, was a probably 12-ton and 50-foot long species of sauropod, reaching somewhere around 15 meters. This is the original depiction of Megalosaurus. I actually quite admire it, considering this was just the immediate um, theory or thought as to, or just depiction as to what the dinosaurs would have looked like. And despite it being very out of date and almost nothing like its current reconstructions, or when it comes to most species of theropod dinosaurs, I very much admire what William Buckland, Richard Owens, their depiction of these animals.
It looks more like a crocodilomorph.
Yeah, it does actually. It does look like a member of the Pseudosuchian lineage of Archosauromorphs. The Archosauromorphs are the group of reptiles in which the all the different species of dinosaurs, including the flying pterosaurs, belong to. Um, though, yeah, this was a common reconstruction for a wide variety of different species
Oh, here it is. Somebody actually did it.
of dinosaurs back in the 1800s. This is over in Crystal Palace Park in London, and this is the original statue from the 1800s of the reconstruction of Megalosaurus. So this was back when they were portrayed as being quite cold-blooded, also, side hips, so their hips would be somewhat splayed out to the side, depending on the species. It doesn't seem to be that they or, William Buckland or Richard Owen gave that type of a physical structure to the theropods. It would be a much more common characteristic with the sauropods, despite being members of the same larger lineage of dinosaurs that the theropods belong to, and as well the horned dinosaurs like ceratopsians, such as Triceratops, Stegosaurus.
Why does this look like a cat? Just looking at
Maybe,
the body, it
maybe,
just
yeah, you could say slightly like the way its tail's curved and the musculature they're giving the upper shoulders, even the back legs. Its upper, I guess, the upper shoulder vertebrae. It almost looks like a bit of a brown bear or a bison to an extent in how the muscle structure is. Maybe you could compare it to certain saber-toothed cats, but even then, they don't tend to have that type of a look. Maybe if you're thinking of like somebody like a larger Smilodon or Homotherium species, but I think it's a bit closer to a bison. Actually, certain species of hadrosaurs or duckbill dinosaurs had elongated back vertebrae about very similar in height to like the rest of the body, but it'd be quite even along the back.
I found something fun.
Oh, yeah, this would be another reconstruction for the 1800s. Dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and also the marine reptiles. They still gave them a very sea serpent or just mythical monster sort of portrayal, which for the time, I mean, even today, I still admire it. But yeah, I would say the pterosaurs are probably some of the freakiest.
I just think
Um,
it's funny this is being used to advertise a vegetable product.
oh, yeah, it is. Sure, it's vegetable.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, Yeah, so I guess it's supposed to be a Megalosaurus. That's supposed to be a Megalosaurus on the right, despite it looking almost like a hyenodont from the Oligocene epoch in the Cenozoic era. Um, or you could say maybe an Andrewsarchus from the Eocene. And then on the left is a also another well-renowned dinosaur from England, but it lived much later in time. That is Iguanodon, and is
Wait,
back
that's
when.
supposed to be an iguanodon?
Yes, except he's a bit small compared to the Megalosaurus in this case. This would be a, very inbred youngster. But Iguanodon looked nothing like this. So for the time, this was a very decent, depiction. It's instead the horn, it would have, well, 2 of these bone structures, for the thumb spikes on each of its hands. It also would not have its hands splayed out in this type of a way. It had more of like a hoof-like structure to an extent, at least for an iguanodontid or a hadrosaur back in the early Cretaceous period, and it lived in England around 135 million years ago. So far after many species of megalosaur went extinct.
They put a sea serpent in
Yeah, that might be depicting. I still don't think it's depicting a plesiosaur. It could be, but there were already depictions of different species of plesiosaurs from the 1800s that they're not to the same accuracy as today's depictions, but I'd say they were better they were closer to today's accuracies compared to the different species of dinosaurs and to an extent even the pterosaurs. It
I'm having fun with these.
um well, this definitely looks a lot more recent, maybe 1980s, but it could be just someone from a few years ago. I don't know who this is supposed to depict. It could be Megalosaurus.
That's what it says.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more recent. I mean, if it's just giving a somewhat similar portrayal to um the older depiction, I guess this is a bit closer as to what it would look like if it's actively trying to intimidate another Megalosaurus, considering Megalosaurus was the one of the largest species of predators in the ecosystem that it inhabited. So outside of maybe larger species of herbivores or another larger Megalosaurus, there really wasn't anything else that it feared. Might have to be careful with the oceans, but even back then, pliosaurs to an extent weren't a huge problem, but probably wouldn't go swimming for hunting fish. Um, This is one of those statues, from some dinosaur park exhibit that I never really understood, if it's supposed to represent a Megalosaurus. It's got a lot of issues. I mean, I admire the work that was done for it, but it's very off for a Megalosaurus. The head, like the bottom jaw, is a bit of out of proportion, and so are the teeth. The hand should not be pointing towards the ground. They should be facing towards each other. There should also be a bit more muscle on the arms in general. I do think that the legs are also a bit too stocky. It's almost giving it a sort of large carcharodontosaurus sort of morphology. And the Megalosaurus, especially Megalosaurus, were much leaner compared to certain members of the later Allosauridae lineage of theropod dinosaurs.
Okay, this guy doesn't say who he is.
Even the core. Megalosaurus is a very athletic build. This might be a Megalosaurus. He definitely looks better. I think there could be a bit more when it comes to his brow ridges or the upper part of the skull. I like that they gave him more muscle, but his thumb claws. I wonder if there's another species of Megalosaur, unless it's just not hitting me when it comes to his thumb claws because his thumb claws much longer compared to um, the I guess the index and the middle finger for this carnivore. Let's see. So this one, I mean, it's not a bad Megalosaurus. Probably like an early 2000s or 90s picture. I think looks really good. It's hunting a species of possibly Thessaliosaurine dinosaur or a small member of the ornithopod lineage from the early Jurassic or mid Jurassic period over in England. It's related to the, Pegomastax species, but these animals were somewhere around maybe 5 to 8 feet in length, or pushing around, 2.5 meters. Probably didn't weigh much more than 100 pounds or pushing around 40 kilograms. Megalosaurus, however, could reach well over 30 feet or pushing 9 meters and weigh somewhere between 2.5 to 3 tons. This was an immense species of theropod dinosaur for the time. Most species of theropod dinosaurs prior to Megalosaurus in the Jurassic of North America, Antarctica, um, Africa, Europe were they might reach slightly over 2,000 pounds or a little over 900 kilograms or reaching about a ton. But pushing around 3 tons was nearly unheard of for, I guess you could say, the first 80 million years of the theropod dinosaurs evolution. I mean, I may be mixing them up with certain other Sauriskians. I might have to degrade that to about 50 to 60 million years.
We close them.
Um, yeah, I think I really like how in this depiction he's shown as a very athletic, um,
Got some really big feet.
yeah, active creature. Yeah, I think it's just specifically the scales that are added towards the side. I wonder why they're there, but it's very good. Certain depictions of megalosaurs have even shown it with feathers, which is certainly possible. We just don't have any evidence for the adults. I don't believe we found any juveniles of megalosaurs yet, but I do like the whole depiction. Even like the surrounding dark forest, which would be quite common back in the Mesozoic era, depending on what ecosystem you were in, and just showing a very dark conifer forest. But likely he was feeding on earlier species of sauropods, certain primitive ornithopods, and early eutherian species as well. Yeah, that was probably some Monolophosaur. So the most okay, back to the little guy, the mysterious, what's it called, a Hakapil kanyurkura theraparian from the Cretaceous. So the most representative of these forms are Scatelosaurus, Emaosaurus, and Scelidosaurus from the lower Jurassic of the United States, Germany, and England, respectively. The newly identified dinosaur species roamed Earth during the late Cretaceous epoch between 97 and 94 million years ago. The ancient creature is the first definitive thyropharian species from the Argentinian Patagonia. Named Hakapil kanyakura, it had short arms measured about 1.5 meters or 4.9 feet long and weighed between 4 and 7 kilograms or pushing from around 18 pounds. Not surprising for the Eutherian, especially like Scelidosaurus, which was slightly larger, but a bit. Also, Scelidosaurus had a much longer neck, similar to a Nodosaur or a Stegosaur, and the osteoderms weren't as projectile or they weren't as spiky in appearance. It shared many features with basal ornithischian and thyropharian dinosaurs, even with ankylosaurids. It also had several novelties. So the neck armor of this dinosaur is unique, and it protected that delicate area from predator attacks, said co-author Dr. Sebastian Apistaguia, also from the Fundación de Historia Natural Felix de Azara at Universidad Maimonides and CONICET. Its arms were tiny, something that didn't occur in the rest of the thyrophorans, the vast majority of which were quadrupeds. If you leave out these smaller, close cousins of the stegosaurs and the ankylosaurs, that is true. Practically, those two lineages, almost all of them were strictly quadrupedal. Many of them, however, did have the ability to rear up on their hind legs for reaching higher up in like different conifer or ginkgo trees. Maybe there's some immense cycad that they love feeding on. Quite a few of these different species of theraparians and stegosaurs, even certain early primitive and chylosaurid nodosaurs, did live before some of the first species of flowers, as well as some of the first species of birds, since they won't appear until possibly when this distinct individual evolved around 140 million years ago. This is really good to see with the different bone specimens that they have found or bone fragments of this type of eutherian dinosaur. They found a great deal of the bottom mandible or the bottom jaw, as well as the upper skull area and part of the cervical vertebrae. Oh, no, not cervical vertebrae, cervical osteoderms around the neck, and one clear spike as well. Clear upper shoulder blade, part of the pelvis, not the complete pelvis, which is not surprising. There have been a number of different species of dinosaurs or different specimens of dinosaurs with this type of a preservation where they found a distinct bone, but they didn't find the complete bone. Like what we're seeing also with the shin. That is interesting. And even part of the left arm, I'm assuming. Certain rib cage, tail vertebrae, caudal vertebrae is what you would call it. So, this isn't bad. Certain other osteoderm armor over on the back. Let's see what else happened. The partial skeleton of Hakapel Kanyukura, including skull bones, partial teeth, and fragments, were recovered from the Candeleros Formation in Rio Negro Province, North Patagonia. Its proportions indicate that the species was likely bipedal, as in Scutellosaurus. That is to be very expected with a wide variety of different species of eutherians, smaller species. In Hakapil Kanyukura, the relative dimensions of the forelimb, hindlimb, and cranial remains bear a greater resemblance to those of the bipedal theropods. It is odd, considering the eutherians are not closely related to the theropods. The long-necked sauropods like Brachiosaurus, um, Argentinosaurus, Diplodocus are much more closely related to the theropods than these eutherians, and they weren't strictly bipedal. Their predecessors were. Many of the prosauropods were strictly bipedal, like Plateosaurus. But, like, considering the sauropods and theropods both belong to the Saurischiae lineage of dinosaurs, the eutherians, like the stegosaurs and ankylosaurs, belong to Ornithischiae, just like the horned dinosaurs like Triceratops, the ceratopsians, and the Pachycephalosaurs, the megacephalians. So, this is odd. I would say it is quite surprising, even though this is a bit obvious from other species of eutherians. It's just strange considering how distantly related they are. It's quite random convergent evolution. Basal ornithischians and heterodontosaurs than thyropherans. Um, well, that is another thing. So the heterodontosaurs were a bit distantly related to the eutherians, but they still belong to the same group, the ornithischians. So more complete material is needed to make accurate quantitative comparisons with other taxa and clarify its stance. Hecapil Kanyakura also shows that early thyropherans had a much broader geographic distribution than previously thought. This new species represents a previously unknown lineage of thyropharian dinosaurs in South America. Thyropharians originated about 200 million years ago and rapidly evolved into various species distributed throughout the world. They were practically found on every continent. There are a couple different species that have been found over in Antarctica, as well as there have been a handful of nodosaur species over in Australia. Depending on where you are, I believe South Africa, maybe even Tanzania, has certain specimens or species of ankylosaurs have been discovered as well. And as well, we have a no, wait, that's ceratopsian that I'm thinking of in North Africa. So, however, of these early thyropherans, the lineage represented by Hakapil Kanyukura was the only one that lasted until at least 100 million years ago. Whoa. Okay, I was off by 40 million years. That's astounding. Middle Cretaceous period, and Hakapil showed up. That's pretty good. Wow, this was a successful group. But unfortunately, it hit that Middle Cretaceous era, not necessarily the 95 million year mark, which marked a huge extinction for a wide variety of different species of large dinosaurs, but the 100 million year mark. That is interesting. Okay. Let's head forward in time to another part of the world. So, over to the Cenozoic era. From news.mangabay.com, hope for tigers grows as Thailand safeguards a key link in their habitat. Let's check out what's going on. Last time I checked, there were somewhere around 200 tigers over in Thailand. So, Kanchanaburi, Thailand. There are a wide variety of different protected areas over in this part of the country. Kanchanaburi has at least 8 different protected areas. Following the path of the tiger isn't easy, yet the 3 rangers, clad in camouflage, move lithely through the steep bamboo thicket, tracking the muddy hoof prints of a sandbar deer. I'm not sure about the sandbar deer population over in Thailand, but it is one of the tiger's main food sources. But sometimes cheetah deer, depending on how abundant that species is in certain regions, are a more preferred prey source. Out of the snagging vines, they emerge on a forested ridgeline, overlooking a landscape that swells and shrinks in watercolor hues of indigo. A breeze rustles the stone oak trees as the sound of grasshoppers pierces the silence. It's easy to imagine the tiger slinking confidently across this terrain, master of its Thai kingdom. Another 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles down the ridge, the rangers stop in a small clearing. Members of Panthera, of course, it's Panthera, a wildcat conservation NGO, pull out a toolkit to check 2 camera traps. It was here in early 2024 that a camera picked up a female Indo-Chinese tiger, Panthera tigris corbeti, moving through this protected corridor known as Sai Sawat. She had never been detected in any other protected area. Maybe they say the tiger will have returned in the past 3 months. But the camera's memory card reveals only smaller species. A
For a
leopard.
second, I heard the tiger's memory card.
Oh,
I was like, "What?"
probably because it's focusing on the tiger. So, a leopard cat, Prionolaris bengalensis, and Asian golden cat, Catopuma temenkai. Despite puma being its name, it's well, actually, it is somewhat closely related to the cougar compared to a wide variety of other species of cats, especially like a lion's tiger. It's very distantly related, but it's also very small. It's like 20 pounds or a little over 8 kilograms, as well as a porcupine, Hystrix bacura, and a pig-tailed macaque, Macaca leonina. I think also many people tend to associate porcupines with different areas of North America, and you can find porcupines, different species over in Africa as well as Asia. So still the team is in good spirits. Hopefully, they say the tiger has taken up residency to the south in Salakpra Wildlife Sanctuary. This is situated over in that's Kamachuri region of Thailand, and it's surrounded by most of the other protected areas. After all, this swath of forest is too small to support a large tiger population, maybe four at best. Oh, I guess I forgot how small this place is.
There's not enough people to eat.
Uh, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Yet, as a corridor cutting through the hills of Kanchanaburi province, it can help to funnel cats into more suitable habitats, forging a pathway of hope for the imperiled species.
Uh, there's no cat.
Nope. Or just checking the camera. So, tigers today are a shadow of their former selves. Okay, so let's see. But uh, biologists say the situation could be worse. I think it's just being repetitive here. Let's find some relevant information. No, no, come on. Okay, let's see who we have here. Seems to be a younger tiger. Seems pretty healthy. 2020, a tiger was found by a camera trap at Sisawat non-hunting area. He was identified as TWT130M, a tiger that traveled from the north. This finding showed us that tigers use the Sisawat non-hunting area to move south to the southern part of the Western Forest Complex. So in Thailand, the tiger's comeback is largely playing out in a region known as the Western Forest Complex, or WEFCOM. Um, that first part sounds concerning. The largest, anyway, bad joke. The largest remaining tract of forest in mainland Southeast Asia, WEFCOM, encompasses 17 contiguous protected areas that span an area roughly the size of Kuwait. Oh yeah, that's a great country to compare it to. You might as well just say southwestern Iran. It begins just a 3-hour drive northwest of Bangkok and sweeps hundreds of kilometers toward the border with Myanmar. So to date, the Tigers. Ugh. Wait a second. Here we go. Tigers recovering the green oasis, a mix of dry evergreen forest, dipter carp. forest and deciduous forest and grassland has largely unfolded in the region's upper reaches, far away from the villages, roads, and tourist fare that intrude on southern WEFCOM. Except if it wasn't for the tourists, the tiger would be dead. Millions of conservation dollars have flowed into the core conservation area, largely Dongye Narusaun Huai Kai Kung Wildlife Sanctuary, through nonprofits like WCS and WWF working to bring the tiger back from the brink. The region's tiger population has more than tripled in response, increasing from a low of just 40 tigers in 2007 to more than 140 of the big cats prowling WEFCOM today. But as tiger numbers grow, space is getting tight in the jewel of WEFCOM's crown. Okay, I guess it's not really hitting me where this Western forest complex is taking place. It's natural that when we have new tigers, the young tigers will have to find their territory, says Kristana, yeah, Kai Kauplang, director of Panthera Thailand. They will come down because it's already crowded in the core. Means we have to prepare for that. Is there not any forest there with any animals? Do you have to donate pigs and cows or quickly relocate some deer from elsewhere? I would assume you already have it prepared. I guess that doesn't sound too surprising for the region. In 2014, scientists first discovered tiger tracks in Salakpra Wildlife Sanctuary, a sign that at least one intrepid animal had ventured 100 kilometers or 60 miles south of Huai Kai Kang. Yeah, it's great. Vital to the tiger's expansion, scientists say, is the Sai So White corridor, a 350 square kilometer or 135 square mile, once unprotected area owned by Thailand's Treasury Department and used by the Royal Thai Army for military drills.
Tire fighting area.
Um, yeah, uh, they. I bet these are secret operators. Nope, not so secret. This corridor, which skirts the eastern side of Sinakarin Reservoir, connects Upper WEFCOM to the south, chiefly Salakpra Wildlife Sanctuary. But that's a really tiny area, apparently. Seems to be an older individual, or it just happened to get hit in the eye. So this is HKT197F in the Salakpra Wildlife Sanctuary. Yeah, you should probably move. That does not seem to be a very decent habitat. So until at least by judging by his face, until recently there were no protections for tigers here. Wait a second. Are you telling me that there are only protections for tigers in certain national parks but not others? That is very strange considering how rare they are. But through camera traps, big cat biologists could point to tigers using the corridor for more than a decade. Oh, I think it's mentioning the whole corridor in general. I find that rather odd. I mean, yeah, unless you're having to defend yourself from the tiger, I understand that. But yeah, you should. Everybody should have the right to take it out at that point, or it's a threat to livestock, just family in general. But you can still just poach it for yeah, that's wrong. For more than a decade, they worked to conserve the Sai Sawat corridor, with the movement gaining traction in 2021 when Panthera received a nearly $1 million grant from the Rainforest Trust to help protect Sai Sawat, an adjacent extension site, closing the gaps in tiger habitat. Finally, in August 2023, the Thai government agreed to designate the corridor as a non hunting area, transferring jurisdiction to the Department of the National Parks, Wildlife and Plant Conservation, unlike national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Thailand, which enjoy a higher degree of protection. Um, oh, wait. Yeah, it seems to be that anywhere outside of these specific areas, the tiger is not protected. Non hunting areas still allow for public access and human activities, but prohibit hunting of any kind. Um, Okay. It sounds like a regular state park to an extent. Obviously, it's not. It's Thailand. Killing tigers was, of course, already forbidden, but the designation would help to protect their prey. Sambar deer, gar cattle, wild boars, and muntjac deer.
Oh,
Lar-
so it's saying that it's not that the tigers weren't protected before, but other animals weren't protected, so it was killing off their food.
Um, no, I'm still confused by that. Large infrastructure projects and land conversions are also banned under NHAs. Since the protection of Sai Sawat, individual tiger detections in southern WEFCOM have soared. Well, that's interesting. Almost like they were just being killed on site and then it came to a stop. Jumping from 20 in 2021 to 54 this year. That's a huge, I mean, that's, um, gosh, what, 120% increase at least? Says Radapan Patanrangansan, Panthera, Thailand's conservation program manager. A former wildlife veterinarian, Pantanrangansan began working with the nonprofit after treating dozens of tigers rescued during the 2016 Tiger Temple scandal. Is that that thing where the monks apparently were like abusing tigers? That's what it sounds like. Okay, Panthera is now working with the government to also declare an additional 140 square kilometers or 54 square miles extension site as a non-hunting area.
Wait a minute. So the genus is working with the government?
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, it was confusing when I first heard of this nonprofit. It's like, wait a second, that can't be right. No, it is. Wow, how sneaky. Widening the tiger's path. That process, it says, is about 30% complete. Okay. One I don't know why, but that sounds like it's taking a long time. I think, what? The, Netherlands not too long ago could have this process take, a much quicker rate. One male tiger is even using sea Sawat as part of his home range. More critically, Patan Narragansett says for the most recent year, we found that now the tigers are reproducing in South WEFCOM. It used to be the sink, but now we are the source. Okay, I guess now, okay, I think that's good. In late 2023, a camera trap picked up 3 new tiger cubs in South WEFCOM. Scientists suggest the lower ranges could permanently support about 47 tigers, with an estimated 26 tigers currently living in the area. Yeah, but the problem is that's not a large population. Where are they going to expand after that? Is it just um, private land? So you're just having to, collaborate with the locals? Um, hmm. But that is why we are worried, Pentungarson says, because compared to the core WEFCOM, we have high human density in the south. The young and stupid tigers move around. The older tigers are wise. I don't know that one with the face issue. Not sure if he was too wise. But anyway, there seems to be a couple of healthy cubs. That's good to see. What was this taken? It's a very barren area. Unless this is like a trail.
I think that's the one that was referencing the 3 tiger cubs.
Um, I don't think they're necessarily dumb. They're just trying to find new habitat, and it's very crowded in Thailand, so they're going to um at least maybe step onto certain people's private land, but likely not attack them, considering um it's more of a lion thing to fatally go after people,
But in
but
India, it was
tigers will.
normal.
Yeah, certain parts of India it seems to be a bit more common. But it can occur in pretty much any area where the tiger is. It's just lions tend to do it a bit more. I still love them both. So Samnuek Sawacho Taida, 72, has lived in the forest of Sai Sawat his entire life. 2 years ago, while walking through the forest, about 10 kilometers or 6 miles from his home in the village of Ungsit, he glimpsed a tiger.
I thought it was saying that person was a tiger, and it's like 72-year-old tiger.
Yeah, a bunch of these names. I don't know why, but I keep thinking of like Korean desserts. I was around a bee's nest. The nest fell, and the tiger was eating the small bees. Sawat Choitidet recalls sitting on the porch of his wooden home. I wasn't scared. I felt like we were friends. Um, Sawat Choitidet. So apparently, West Virginia also exists over in Thailand too. It's just that sort of atmosphere, maybe Tennessee to an extent. Anyway, Sawat Choitidet says he's seen many tigers throughout his life, especially when he was young, traveling with his father through the forest. Once in his childhood village of Nas One, a tiger killed someone's pig and the villagers killed the tiger in revenge. Its carcass was left to rot because tigers were so common at the time that they were seen to have little value. But since then, tigers and their prey have become scarce. Sawat Choitidet says he used to hunt small mammals for food in the forest and only stopped after his son became a ranger with the National Parks Department. Sawat Choitidet says he's happy about having more tigers in the landscape. He says he hopes they'll be able to control the elephant population, a common refrain among those living in the Sea Sawat area. Never mind, the West Virginia and Tennessee atmosphere is now gone. They love elephants and they love tigers. Sometimes they eat the baby elephants. Tigers have principles. If we don't bother them, they don't bother us. Uh-huh. Sure. Right, right. I'm pretty sure every carnivore will just randomly, if it decides to, pounce on a person. And so will the elephants. When it comes to coexisting with wildlife, Asian elephants, Elephas maximus, are the core concern for people living near WEFCOM. And see, so what? Sweeping fields amaze about the forest with elephant patrol towers stationed every few hundred meters for farmers to keep watch over their crops at night. Every so often, someone is gored or trampled by an elephant in Kanchanaburi. Well, I can see why they don't really like them, but I'm really wondering about the habitat itself. Because wildlife management in Thailand is governed in part by Buddhist beliefs. The National Parks Department won't kill elephants deemed by locals to be a problem. Tigers, villagers say, might be able to do the job instead. Huh.
Well, I like seeing elephants going shopping.
Yes,
Wait, is it in Thailand that the elephants are allowed to stop the trucks and just eat off of them?
I think so. I think many Southeast Asian countries, possibly China too. Part of China is in Southeast Asia. Karen people have certain beliefs not to harm the tiger, says Pantheras Pantangaragasan. Even if a tiger eats your cattle, nothing is done. This is favorable for the tiger. The challenge, he adds, is that the Karen people, a diverse ethnic group, yeah, sure, also rely on consuming animals from the forest, often the same prey as the tigers.
Oh, I thought it was calling them Karens.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder who came
Maybe
up
that's
with
where the
that.
term came from.
I don't. Hmm. With Sea Sawat officially protected from hunting, the focus now is to boost the tiger's prey to sustain a growing southern population. Oh, maybe it's talking about certain. You know what? Never mind.
We keep getting pictures without tigers.
Yeah. It's kind of dull. The tigers traverse the gradual ridgelines.
What tigers?
Yeah. Okay. At a newly constructed ranger checkpoint in the Sisawa corridor, Prawut Prempi, the National Parks Department's founding chief for the area, lays out his vision for the future. A half dozen rangers mill around the bunkhouse and kitchen, fresh off their latest anti poaching patrol through the forest. We try to look through the eyes of animals. If we think about what tigers want the most and what sustains them, it's prey. It is prey. If we look through the eyes of the prey, deer, gar, and banteng, we must consider the forest conditions they need to thrive. Yeah, wow. Okay. Preppy has
That
championed
just
this.
sounded terrible.
I know.
We look at feeding the tigers,
But it kind of
eat
seems like
other
a very,
animals.
yeah, it seems like a very basic news interview. Prempeh has championed the Sisawa corridor from within the government for more than a decade. In many ways, this is his life's work. Hunched over a large map of WEF COM, he describes the next steps to make the tiger feel at home in the southern part of the range. In northern WEFCOM, conservationists have been breeding sandbar deer in captivity and releasing them into the core of the habitat for 4 years. Huh, I didn't know this. In 2024, the department began to do the same in southern WEFCOM, starting up a 5 year project. So far, Prempeh says about 20 sandbar deer have been released into the area's forests. But those animals were trucked in from breeding stations in other provinces. Bantang boasts Havaniscus, so the large wild cattle in the region. A species of wild cattle closely related to gar are also being reintroduced into Salakpura Wildlife Sanctuary. Practically, it's just a different species of bos. The wild gar is also another species of bos. Wild gar is just a bit larger than Bantang cattle. Brimby says he hopes to one day have a sandbar breeding center and reintroduction program located within southern WEFCOM. Meantime, Panthera has found that populations of smaller tiger prey are still increasing. The abundance of wild boar, lesser mouse deer, Trachulus conchil, and two species of muntjac deer were all found to be increasing in recent surveys in the area. Well, that's good to hear. Reflecting on the work to protect this corridor, Prempeh says he is grateful for Karen people's willingness to coexist with the forest and the animals. Hmm, it's so confusing. I'm touched by the condition of the forest and how fertile it is. Higher tiger numbers, that is our hope. Hey, it's a clouded leopard.
This isn't a tiger.
He's really good to see. I mean, so are the tigers as well. But yeah, he. Um, I think it's funny. A random clouded leopard shows up, but there could be maybe 10 to 12,000 of them in existence throughout Southeast Asia. So his presence is very good to see.
Maybe he's hanging out with a fishing cat.
Yeah, he could be.
The leopard's like, "I'm hungry." The fishing cat goes, "Hold up."
Here's some shipped in tuna from some Sundarban tigers, which live in the southern mangrove swamps of Bangladesh, so west of Thailand. Very aggressive. They're a very aggressive population of tigers, but they also live in a very horrible, just naturally, it's kind of a bad habitat. So, well, the impulsiveness is a bit expected. Um, these tigers might be slightly more calm. Um, let's see. Okay, so let's head back in time to another part of the world from Sci News. New species of long necked dinosaur identified in Colombia. So, a new genus and species of medium sized sauropod dinosaur has been described from a single trunk vertebra found in the department of Cesar, northeastern Colombia. Somebody obviously did not like a salad or a certain emperor. They took out the A. Oh, well, whatever. Let's see. So, the newly identified dinosaur species lived in the tropical lowland forests of what is now Colombia during the Jurassic period, some 175 million years ago. Most of the discoveries of dinosaurs in South America come from rocks from the Cretaceous period located in Argentina and Brazil, said Universidad del Norte's professor Aldo Rincon Bourbano and colleagues. This is actually not very common to see over in South America in general. Colombia has been obtaining some more recent discoveries of dinosaurs over the past few years compared to, um, I guess, past decades. But, yeah, most, especially coming from the Middle Cretaceous and the Early Cretaceous, dinosaurs, they're coming in from Argentina, Chile, and parts of Brazil. You could possibly stick in Paraguay as well, and Peru too. Peru also has certain Jurassic specimens. So dinosaurs from the northern part of South America are much rarer, particularly during the Triassic or Jurassic and Triassic periods. During the initial radiation of dinosaurs when land masses were still substantially interconnected. Um, yeah, you could say northern South America does not obtain as many, especially Triassic specimens. They still occur, but Triassic specimens like the Herrerasaurus, certain prosauropods, certain later species of theropods are quite common in certain areas of Argentina and southern Brazil, especially Herrerasaurs, very common in those regions. but also a wide variety of different species. Named Pariasaurus lapaz, the new species belonged to Eusauropoda, a derived group of strictly herbivorous quadrupedal dinosaurs with long necks. Well, I really wonder how large this dinosaur was, considering um, at this point, I mean, we're 175 million years ago. This is close to the time of Megalosaurus. There were a wide variety of different larger species, well, for the time, sauropods and theropods appearing. So let's bring up another species of theropod dinosaur. This is from another part of the world, Sinraptor. Sinraptor. So this is a species of theropod dinosaur from the Jurassic over in China, probably around 165 million years ago. And it was also a member of the Megalosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs and possibly even the Metracanthosaur lineage of dinosaurs as well. So, Sinraptor was somewhere around 20 feet in length or pushing 6 meters and probably weighed about 1,400 pounds or a little over 600 kilograms. Oh, yeah, this is a very bad representation. Um, or maybe it's just kind of freaky with the poor dinosaur in the tar. Okay, so where are we? Okay. So in this instance, it's very interesting. So he seems to have killed maybe a young sauropod. There were different species of larger sauropods at this point back in the mid Jurassic of China. Certain species of mamenchosaurs had already evolved. But the animal that the Megalosaurus is fighting here, and not the Megalosaur, the Sinraptor, is actually one of the earliest species of tyrannosaurs that evolved. So this would be one of the predecessors to T Rex, as well as Albertosaurus, Daspletosaurus. This is likely Guanlong, which is somewhere around 8 to 10 feet in length. They're pushing around 3 meters and probably didn't weigh much more than 110 pounds. They're pushing about 50 kilograms. Whereas, it is very possible that this animal might have hunted in packs. And it is very likely that it was covered in feathers as well. Sinraptor might have had feathers, but many reconstructions of it just simply show it as being simply a bit scaly, considering or smooth scales, considering we don't have any skin showing that Sinraptor had feathers. However, this one apparently he does have feathers on his arms. This isn't a bad reconstruction. It's likely hunting different smaller, like I guess you could say sauropodlet mamenchosaur individuals. There were other species, I believe, like possibly the Paragerosaurus. That's the animal would have hunted back in Jurassic China. So this was before many of the larger species of tyrannosaurs, even other members of the Coelurosaur lineage, would have evolved in Asia. Even for different species of allosaurs as well. Oh, carcharodontosaurs too. Interesting. This is actually a decent model of a Sinraptor hunting an earlier species of Ceratopsian. So, Ceratopsian. This might have been an earlier predecessor to the Ceratopsian lineage, but it definitely has a very morphological physique similar to Ceratopsians that would evolve somewhere around 165 million years ago. But I think the Sinraptor also looks good. The arms might could have a bit more muscle, but Sinraptor's arms are quite thin compared to certain other lineages of theropod dinosaurs at this point. Almost a bit closer to like Dilophosaurus when you look at the overall muscle, or possibly even Cryolophosaurus. So species of theropod dinosaurs that were belonging to completely different lineages of theropods, and also living much earlier in the Jurassic. This one, the overall, like the stance of the animal is a bit off. It's not bad. I think the arms might be a bit small. Also, they're pointing towards the ground. This also seems to be a bit of an earlier depiction. I think the skull looks pretty decent. I don't think the neck looks bad. The legs, there's something off about the muscle.
But this guy looks like claymation.
Oh, right, Shunosaurus too. Well, not this is supposed to represent Sinraptor, but it coexisted with a species of clubbed, sauropod. Actually, let's bring up the individual, Shunosaurus. Shunosaurus. Other species of, smaller sauropod that existed in the region. It was interesting. So this is from the 2013 dinosaur documentary, Dinosaur Revolution. And, it definitely depicted the Raptors being quite agile creatures. But so did Planet Dinosaur, but I think it was of a younger Raptor, possibly. So this is definitely an earlier representation of the Shanosaurus, and it is distinguished by having a very clubbed spike tail like a appendage at the end of its body, which it likely used for defending itself against theropods such as Sinraptor, um, other megalosaurs in the region. But Shanosaurus is it's very interesting considering it evolved at a time like somewhere around the first 5 to 10 million years of when sauropods first evolved. Pushed somewhere around 40 feet in length or about 12 meters, maybe reaching a weight of 9 tons. So it's definitely one of the larger species of sauropod for its time. Yeah, these are very good, reconstructions of Sinraptor Shunosaurus conflicts. I do like the skull structure that they gave the Shunosaurus in, this depiction. Almost like they combined a Brachiosaur and a Diplodocid sort of a skull structure, which I think it's still a bit of a mystery to an extent of what Shunosaurus had for a skull. Um, but I don't mind this one either. I think I prefer the other, but it also seems to be of a different type of artistic sort of,
His legs are
um,
funny.
appeal. Yeah, this comes from a specific artist, definitely from, like, the 19 I think it's even the 1980s. Oh, what's his name? It's not hitting me. He did a wide variety of different art depictions of the Mesozoic era, um, in this sort of a way. A lot of, like, darker forests too. Let's see. So, wow, this is definitely representing the Shanosaurus as dwarfing, which they would have, the Sinraptor in, this look. It's also giving the sauropods it's interesting because in, the 1980s, despite even a lot of depictions of sauropods being still quite kind of slow moving, there were a number of artists at that point that were already giving sauropods a very athletic sort of a, mobility or just a, like, reconstruction. Like, in this case, where it looks like the Shunnosaurs are almost running, which you could say certain sauropods almost had the ability to, like, slow run or at least fast walk or almost trot to an extent. Oh, wow. Okay, this is much more recent. Um, gosh, all these Raptors are just getting hit. Like, they're just portrayed as just dumb Raptors, not keeping their space. They're definitely, like, giving this, Shunnosaurus very long limbs compared to its body size, which I might have to check to see of the specific bones we have found of Shunnosaurus. Was it one of those earlier species of sauropods that simply did have longer limbs? Because it seems to be the instance that we have with certain earlier species of sauropod from the Middle Jurassic between 170 and 180 million years ago, where they evolved long legs. Very interesting. It's not a common characteristic that you see in other species of sauropods. Brachiosaurs can have long forelimbs, but very short hind limbs.
Yeah, this one's freaky.
Certain stegosaurs can also have long limbs too. Ooh. Yeah, this is interesting. Kind of like the overall look, though. Yeah, it's from a certain artist
So he
today.
smashed the thing out of the air.
Yeah, it can definitely occur. Even pterosaurs had to watch out, even though they were just. This looks to be some sort of species of rhamphorhynchid. It was just looking for a fish or somewhere to perch, and this Shunnosaurus obviously didn't trust him. Well, it is China, so even back in the Mesozoic era, they had low trust herd society or sauropods. Yeah, they had their own issues. So, back to the article. Um, Where were we? Okay, so we're back in Colombia. So, the new genus and species in the Paleotropics allows us to understand a little more about the origin of the sauropods in the Jurassic, as well as how they set the stage for later sauropods from the Cretaceous. Fossilized vertebra of Prehistoric La Paz, about 55 centimeters tall and 45 centimeters wide, was found in exposures of the La Quinta Formation cropping out west of the town of Manaur in the department of Cesar northeastern Colombia. There's a town called Manure? I guess it's not surprising. Although Proharosaurus La Paz is represented by a single vertebra, that region of the skeleton provides the most information in sauropods due to a series of laminae and other structures, said Dr. Martin Ezcura, a paleontologist at the Argentine Museum of Natural Sciences and Connecticut. Parasaurus la Paz lives in an environment of low slopes associated with a river and forested areas, said Daniel Rod Parajo, or Papajaro, a researcher at the Universidad del Norte. We found fine sand and leaf debris in the sediment deposited in the area where the vertebra was originally found. Wait a second, is this all they found of the sauropod? I guess that's not too surprising. Many species of sauropods, their whole species and genus identification is only based off of maybe a single bone or a handful of fragmented bones from the site. And it is consistent with the sediment within the neural arc of the vertebra, which are only preserved near a floodplain, near the slopes of river or specifically a wooded area. Paleontologists also determine the evolutionary relationships of Brachiosaurus lapaz through a computational analysis. Brachiosaurus lapaz is part of the early radiation of sauropods, which include species from southern and South America, Africa, Asia, and Europe, said Dr. Harold Jimenez Valendier, a geologist at the University of Caldas. So, let's see. Let's bring up another species of theropod dinosaur, this time from another part of the world, Metracanthosaurus. So, hmm, oh, Canthosaurus. Oh, yeah, here we go. So this is also another lineage of the Megalosauroideae lineage of theropod dinosaurs. So Metracanthosaurus inhabited England around somewhere between 165 to 170 million years ago. It was also one of the probably medium-sized species of predators on the different islands in the region. I think it's the same thing for the Megalosaurus that popped up. Though it does show closer resemblance to the Metracanthosaurus. So this would make a bit more sense when looking at the skull structure, especially the horn deposits or the somewhat crest region, even the somewhat elongated vertebrae along the back, considering certain species of Metracanthosaurs are quite odd. It's like they decided to evolve an elongated vertebrae and then create a bit of a gap, and then there would be a slight increase, like a little bit of a peak towards like the upper part of the pelvis region, and then slimmer down towards the tail. Very odd. When it comes to Metracanthosaurus, it seems to be a bit even when it comes to the elongated sail to an extent or vertebrae. So this seems to be a much older representation. Definitely, it is interesting. Like certain depictions of carnivorous dinosaurs eating their prey items from the 1950s, 40s would show like huge lumps of carcasses. Sometimes it would be a bit of a question as to what on earth they're eating, but um, yeah, it is quite interesting. It's almost like though he found a large thing of lasagna by the reconstruction of it just lying on the ground.
Wait,
But
what were we watching where it looked like they were eating gummies?
uh, wasn't primitive war. I don't know. Is this a cartoon?
No, it was like one of the, Walk the
Documentaries?
Dinosaurs or,
Oh.
Planet Dinosaur or something.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of even certain things. Dinosaur Revolution. Oh, Planet Dinosaur. You said. Oh, was it that little not a dromaeosaur, but a close relative? I think it was a member
Oh,
of
it
the
was in Walking with
Therapus.
Dinosaurs. It was the, oh,
I was thinking the Epizipteryx getting the grubs or larvae
no,
out of
no.
the
No, it was the,
the raptors eating that
wasn't a
guano
raptor. It
carcass.
wasn't a raptor. It was the
The polar and quote allosaur eating the
no, flying.
the Tinosaurus or eating the little insects.
It
Ramphorhynchus
was the
eating
Rhamphorhynchus eating the
grubs from the tree
I don't know,
or the
fish.
bark.
It was fish or something. It was on the ground. When he was eating it, it looked like gummies.
Well, the horseshoe crab eggs. Is that maybe what it was? It could have been. Um, yeah, that Ramphorhynchus reconstruction. It wasn't bad overall, but it did have some issues, especially along the beak. I'm talking about a little Jurassic pterosaur from England as well. Oh yeah, if I didn't say that, this animal or Metriacanthosaurus existed in England around 165 million years ago. Slightly earlier than when Rhamphorhynchus was there, as well as other theropods like Eustreptospondylus. I think it's from the Path of Titans video game. Um,
Oh, yeah, it says that.
it's a decent reconstruction. It is interesting. It's very hard to tell, but you can see that slight elongated or just heightened back compared to the tail. Though, yeah, it is a pretty good reconstruction. I think the skull looks very well done, especially like the upper crest structure. There was also a more recent discovery over in Kyrgyzstan of another member of, I believe, the Allosauroideae lineage of dinosaurs that has a somewhat similar reconstruction or morphology to the upper jaw region, like Metracanthosaurus. Well, this is definitely making it look much more, I guess you could say it's like a iguana to an extent, but it still has its own theropod dinosaur appearance to it. I think it's just the heightened osteoderms, also the bit of a sack underneath. Very slobbery, but I think those are feathers.
The other dinosaur looks like it's been deflated.
Yeah, he definitely has. You can see his rib cage. He's like, "Oh yeah, I wanted um, I'm on the carnivore diet. I need those organ meats." Um, but yeah, everybody does. Anyway, the also part of his neck was gone. Um, I guess that was kind of dumb to say. He is a carnivore. Um, Sometimes you forget, like you're talking about a carnivore. You know it's a carnivore, and then for some reason you mix up his. You find it odd for a second that he's eating. He's going after certain parts of the body. It's like he's a carnivore. What else is he going to do? Um, Clean his teeth with some ferns, like what lions do over in Africa after they chase some waterbuck, considering waterbuck antelope have some of the oiliest skin of any species of mammal on Earth. So lions, you'll see them munching on grass to help clean their mouth. But I don't think that would have occurred. At least we don't have any evidence of that occurring with any herbivore and carnivore prey relationships. Where were we? The presence of Parasaurus la Paz in the paleotropics of South America, together with its close phylogenetic relationship with geographically widespread species that inhabited low latitudes, suggests that sauropods diversified and dispersed fairly rapidly following a major anoxic event at the end of the lower Jurassic, when portions of the oceans were depleted of oxygen over large geographic areas. I did not know about that specific situation. That's interesting. So, what we see in the early Jurassic, both in high latitudes and in the most tropical areas, is that sauropod species were evolutionary and geographically interconnected, which is something that has also been seen with other groups of carnivorous and herbivorous dinosaurs. By, by the Jurassic, the early Jurassic, I'd say much further back, like over 185 million years ago, unless we're talking about possibly Australia. Dinosaurs pretty much covered every single continent, or specifically the sauropods. Um, dinosaurs definitely did cover every continent by that point. I'd say back in the Triassic too, so 210 million years ago. Okay, it's good to see. Let's head forward in time, our final article to the Cenozoic era. So from theguardian.com, this is a tragedy. Swimming snakes open new front in battle with Balearic lizards. Okay, let's see what's going on here. The horseshoe whip snake, uh, Hemeros hypocrepus, first appeared on Ibiza 2 decades ago. So, irrefutable proof of what Spanish researchers and wildlife experts had long suspected and long feared finally presented itself in the form of a grainy video that was shot on a minuscule island in the Balearics in April 2024, ribboning its way through the turquoise waters that separate the east coast of Ibiza from the islet of Santa Eulalia. 450 meters away came a pale and solitary horseshoe whip snake in search of new territory and fresh sustenance. Also, when it comes to Spain in general, there are around 15 species of native snake to the region, around five, or the country. 5 species are venomous, and 2 species of snakes are semi aquatic. The arrival of the snake on Santa Eulalia, recorded by a local wildlife ranger, confirmed that the insatiable invader from the Spanish mainland, which has almost wiped out Ibiza's endemic population of dazzling colored wall lizards, had opened up a new front. Wow, what a conquistador. There had been increasing, I mean, I say that in triumph for the the Spanish snake towards, I'm guessing, Morocco. Eh. There's been That's a bad joke. There's been increasing anecdotal evidence from fishermen and tourists who'd seen the snake swimming, so we thought it was happening very often, said Oriol La Piedra, a biologist at the Center for Ecological Research and Forestry Applications, CREEF, in Catalonia. But this was the first proper evidence we'd had of a snake swimming from Ibiza to the islet. Um, I'm just going to keep going. We're talking about snakes and semi-aquatic snakes over in Spain. There's not much I can say here. The horseshoe. I mean, I'll try to come up with certain other things as we keep going. This seems to probably be a similar case that was going on during the Cretaceous period over 80 million years ago over in this part of Europe. The horseshoe
Snakes were
whips.
eating lizards.
Well, species of sauropod and carnivorous dinosaur conflicts. The horseshoe whip snake, a non venomous reptile found across southern and eastern Spain, has become an existential threat to the lizards since it began appearing on the island 2 decades ago. Its rapid colonization has been attributed to the fashion among wealthy property owners in Ibiza for importing ancient olive trees from mainland Spain to adorn the grounds of their homes. Unbeknown to them, however, the trees, replete with their nooks and hollows, have provided ideal travel berths for hibernating snakes and snake eggs. 20 years later, after it arrived, Hemerois hypocrepus is present across at least 90% of the island and has developed a taste for the unsuspecting lizards whose familiar colors and outlines grace much of Ibiza's tourist tat, from t shirts and fridge magnets to towels and mugs. Whoa. Sheesh. Um, oh, wait a second. Oh, okay. I thought it was like the people were eating them. These days, though, items of Kish lizard merchandise, I thought mayonnaise for a second, may outnumber the real population. In October 2022, the International Union for Conservation of Nature moved the Ibiza wall lizard, Podarcus pituensis, up its extinction red list from near threatened to endangered. You should probably put critically endangered. It's 90%. That's a big problem. Jeez. Treasured and beloved as the lizards are for their aesthetic appeal and tame natures. Oh, they're these guys. Yeah, that's a big problem. They're also a keystone species that plays a vital role in maintaining the region's ecosystems. Wasn't hitting me that specific lizard. Yeah, I like these guys. They control insect populations, including agricultural pests, so that all changes when they disappear. They also pollinate flowers and disperse seeds. I forgot how much of an ecological benefit these guys are to the island. Yeah, we need to do something about those snakes. We have to take care of other issues further in mainland Spain. What is more, the lizards are something of an evolutionary wonder. Each of the dozens of islands and islets that make up the Pituisic Islands has a different population whose distinct colorations include green, blue, black, brown, gray, and orange. No one knows how many invasive snakes there are in Ibiza, according to the Balearic regional government, which is working with CREEF and other groups to protect the lizards. More than 3,500 horseshoe whip snakes were captured on the island last year alone, and more than 16,000 have been called since 2016. Whoa!
This is like what's going on in Florida.
Jeez. Yeah, that is not good. Whoa, yeah, you gotta get rid of those guys. Even so, forecasts suggest they will be found across 100% of the island by the end of 2027. Whoa, jeez, that is true. Replacement, that is bad. On the mainland, yeah, I went down to like some of them, just some regular people over in Spain or Portugal would be happy to kill a bunch of snakes. Even so, forecasts suggest they will be. Oh, I said that. Okay, so on the mainland, the snakes tend to be skinny creatures that seldom exceed lengths of 1.8 meters. Um, well, not the shortest snake in terms of length, but
What is it in feet?
I'm going to guess around 6 feet. Yeah, it's not exactly short in length. Yeah, it's thin. But they are thriving to such an extent on Ibiza that specimens have been found that are more than 2 meters long, or 6.6 feet, and weigh 2.5 times as much as their peninsular peers. Probably much larger than the 1.8-meter ones. Maybe comparing to like a 5 footer or 4 footer. Well, that would make sense. As La Piedra put it, we've found animals that are as thick as my wrist. We're not sure how that could mean anything, but
Yeah, how
yeah,
thick is
that's
your wrist?
um let's see. So um the biologist and his colleagues whose research was published recently in the journal Ecology believed increased competition for food among the snakes on Ibiza may have driven them toward the islets. Well, the hope is that dwindling food sources may eventually bring down the number of snakes. The damage has already been done. Researchers observed 72 lizards on Santa Eulalia in 2016 and just 3 in 2023. Today, whoa. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, the lizards. Gosh, that is not good. 3. Might as well just take them in and send them to a population that has a larger amount. Let's see. So today, the unique lizard populations of 10 islets, including Santa Eulalia, have become extinct, taking with them thousands of years of unique evolution. Yeah, ouch. Meanwhile, horseshoe whip snakes have been found on Ibiza's neighboring island of Formentera. In an effort to safeguard the species, a Noah's Ark captive breeding program involving lizards from 8 populations was set up at Barcelona Zoo last year and is doing well. Oh, I mean, that's good to hear. But the small size of the islets combined with the voracity of the snakes leaves little room for optimism and still less for complacency. La Piedra likens the situation to that of the Pacific island of Guam, where the arrival of the brown tree snake on U.S. military ships 80 years ago led to the extirpation of 10 of 12 native forest bird species. I did not know that. Whoa. Um, that is, well, that's not, geez. Are those species still around? I gotta check up on that too. The only difference is that the snakes in Guam aren't reported to swim. Oh yeah, that helps. They're already dead. So there are islands around Guam that still have the species that Guam used to have. Okay, well that's refreshing. And yet, as La Piedra pointed out, all is not lost on Ibiza. An ironic twist for a species has been thrust into extinction's fangs by the human compulsion to order and reorder the landscape. The safest lizard populations in Ibiza are now those in urban areas. Really? That is interesting. Hmm. I guess it's almost like it's consistent for the snakes to get killed and lizards seek shelter. That's good to hear. The lizards are still present in the largest cities in Ibiza, and the populations are fine. Basically, what's happening is that in the urban areas, the snakes get run over, and people there also kill them because they don't like snakes. So, for now, some of these urban areas have good lizard populations. Yeah, I think what's unfortunate is I bet the lizards on those other islands probably had somewhat distinct genetic features, but the question is, how close are these islands in proximity to each other? But for La Piedra, his colleagues, and people across Ibiza, the rapid disappearance of the lizards is both an ecological or cultural disaster. Okay, well, um, it just hit me considering this is a guy talking. That's probably a very fat snake that he's referring to. Each or most of the islets have these unique lineages that are being completely lost to science and to humanity right now. So this is a tragedy. It's like fire in an old church. What? This- Never mind. So yeah, this is interesting. Quite intense. I was not expecting that. I thought it was just like a sighting of certain snakes in the region. Quick removal. Apparently not. Even cars are having trouble taking them out. Okay. Well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.